Okay, but our last news item, and it's a little sad. It's been a sad situation, and I'll try my best to give you guys a little background on this. But Bitboy, Ben Armstrong of Bitboy Crypto fame, he had kind of had this split with this big rift with the folks behind at Bitboy Crypto, the channel. It was a pretty big operation, and him and TJ have been battling since this thing. It's really kind of a sad situation. There seems to be some addiction issues. The reason this relates something to Algorand is because we've had on the channel AJ Writes Crypto. He's a friend of the channel. I consider him a online friend for sure. Haven't met him in person, but he seems like a good guy, and he had supported Ben, and then Ben recently turned his back on him as well, and his other partner J Chains. And so everyone's been, he's pretty much pointed the finger at everyone else and seems to be going through some kind of mental health crisis. And I feel bad for that. I think it's too bad in our country that you have to get to that point before you can get any kind of treatment, really, if you don't want it. Some people, it's one of those tricky things. I don't want to get too far down this rabbit hole, but it's one of those tricky things where, your mental health condition might prevent you from seeking help for your mental health condition, if that makes sense. And it's tough. It's not an easy situation. So when I explain this, I want to explain this with that in mind, because I think that's important. But yeah, why don't we dive into this? Yeah, and I first learned about this from AJ's tweet. He said, "I didn't have to come to this, but here we are. I pray that Ben gets the help he needs." What's he talking about? This is the arrest document for Bitboy. He's listed as a fugitive of justice. You can't see that with in fact, I will temporarily. Yeah, he's listed as a fugitive adjustment, no bond. That's very interesting, but I don't know how things work I think he was arrested in Florida, actually. So, and I think in some jurisdictions, you just might not get bond until you can have a bond hearing, which is probably the case. It also says outstate as charge status, and supposedly this is for harassment I saw elsewhere. This is his arrest document. It says, "This is what happens when mental illness goes unchecked and everyone believes you and you say, 'I'm fine.' This is a man who was standing on top of the world a few short years ago. Impulsive decisions paired with drugs and blatant disregard for baseline reality create a deadly combo." And to be honest, I'm just glad to see he's alive. Yeah, I mean, it's scary, right? Mental illness can make you do things that you wouldn't ordinarily do, and some of those things can lead to very dangerous situations. There are so many lessons to be learned here, and I hope you see that. Let this be a wake-up call on the dangers of neglecting mental health and the importance of compassion and intervention. One thing I guess I'll push back a little bit is it's not really that easy to intervene. The way our country is set up, and I don't want to go through the whole history, but we used to have mental health institutions, and they were very draconian and were difficult. A lot of people were calling for reforms, and what happened instead was deinstitutionalization. So they were all shut down, and you made it really, really hard to commit somebody involuntarily. And that's kind of why we have some of the situation we have now. We can't sit here and applaud the downfall of a struggling suicidal narcissist. This is not funny. This is not a cheerful celebration because they got him. This is a reminder that no one is above the law, common sense, or God. And I kind of saw some of this behavior. So obviously the big split happened with Bitboy and with the Bitboy Crypto channel, with Ben and the Bitboy Crypto channel. He started a new channel. It started growing. He had sponsorships, and I don't know, from my perspective, I saw that and I thought, okay, dude, just focus on your new thing. Let the courts decide what they got to decide. Let that play out in the court, and just focus on your new business. It's you can make money. You've got the clout. You carry that with you no matter what. And he still had a pretty strong following. And so this is really sad to see it come to this. And I feel bad for AJ. I feel bad for him. Someone accused him of putting him on blast. I don't think he put him on blast. No, I thought it was a pretty I think it was a fair this is a fair write-up. This is a very fair write-up, at least as far as someone who, listen, I don't know all the details. I've seen what Ben shared, which is a lot, and at some point he seemed to turn against pretty much everyone. Now, I will say, I tweeted at him about Algorand once, and he kind of blew up my account by responding. It was some of the most views I'd ever gotten on Twitter. So shout out to him for that. But yeah, he's went after Crypto Wendio. He's went after AJ, and he always seemed to be stuck on this. I've seen this behavior in other people who have struggled with mental illness, where they get hyper fixated on something they can no longer fix, and it leads them down a bad road where they really should just probably move on, is the wiser decision. So there's more on this, and this was on Mario Nafal, crypto influencer jailed without bail for harassing judge. crypto influencer Ben Armstrong, known as Bitboy, was arrested in Florida and jailed without bail for harassing Cobb County Superior Court Judge Kimberly Childs. Armstrong confirmed on X that arrest warrants were issued after he sent emails to the judge. Yeah, don't bother the judge. You got to let court processes play out in court. And when that doesn't happen, really bad things can happen. According to this, he faces up to 3 years behind bars. I'm going to guess that he's not going to get 3 years. Here's the thing about, and I'll tell you this as a former court reporter. I mean, I was a reporter who covered crime on a daily basis. When they say up to 3 years, that's the maximum sentence. And it's not impossible, but it's most likely something much less than that is usually the case. You know, Ben doesn't have like a serious criminal record. He has that arrest that, the last time he had his little breakdown. So that will factor in, I assume. Why was he in Florida? I don't know. There's a lot here we don't know. I think there's a lot to unpack here yet. And yeah, honestly, I feel bad for him. I think there's some stuff I didn't care for from his personality. I saw him lash out, just absolutely have a meltdown over a commenter who suggested that he was wrong about something that he ended up being wrong about. It was something about, like, he kept saying when this dot appears on the chart, it always leads to a pump. And well, it didn't pump that, by the way. I kept track because I was interested, but he went on this like 10-minute rant. It was really strange. So yeah, I hope he gets the mental health help he needs. That's all I'm going to say. And I'll leave it at that.